This is the first online session we intend having, and we'll see how it goes. And this is the first time I'm actually going to online, so there could be here and there a bit of hiccups, but they still will sort out certain things. And if you, I appreciate the fact that I noticed that most of the students have muted the phones, and that doesn't mean that you cannot make a query. If you really want to make a comment on that, you please do come or send a message. I will attend it, and we'll go for an introduction. And I can see a few people are joining still, giving a couple of minutes from now, and we'll discuss about international trade. Before that, we'll discuss about trade, domestic trade, differences between international and domestic trade, and a little bit of, deep into loss of advantages. I hope that you have all the handouts that I have sent for this particular session. Keep that handout near you now. And I want to make a small appeal. Please do concentrate. And this is not a very easygoing subject. It's a bit of a board and also a little bit of a tough subject also as well. So therefore, please do concentrate and be with me for this couple of hours. Right. I hope that you can read properly here. So we'll discuss something about domestic trade before coming to, hit into the international trade. And I will take a small example of domestic trade. Say that with some purchasing power, you go to a boutique or to a shop, and with some bonds that you want to buy a pair of shoes. Now, few of us will, taking off the price. Obviously, if you are bankers, style, duration, maybe for some guys, the brand, etc. Right? So these are the predetermination factors that I had in mind before buying the pair of shoes or stopping into that boutique, into the shoe palace. If everything being decided that I want that to be fulfilled by the shop vendor, there's no compulsion towards me to buy the pair of shoes even if it is fitted on properly. And what I do is I go to the next shop. So the huge amount of choice being exercised by me, and not worried a bit of the shop guy's integrity, and I'm not worried that much whether he has the capacity of manufacturing or distributing the shoes, and I'm not worried a bit in his memorandum of association as a company being incorporated, and the primary object clause of the particular association, whether it's distribution of shoes. I'm not worried. And also I will be least worried if the person is selling the pair of shoes, whether he is a minor or a major. You know what a minor is now? Any citizen in Sri Lanka not yet reached to 18 years is called a minor. Once you're 18 plus, you become a major. Usually, under common law of English law in Sri Lanka, the minors cannot come into contractual capacities. And therefore, I might tend to wonder this little fellow whether he can sell the shoes to me. But when you go to a purchase in a boutique in Sri Lanka or a shop in Sri Lanka, we are not that concerned about those things. We just want to see whether properly fitted shoe is available for me to buy. Why is that? Because of the word choice. I choose what I buy, and I choose from which shop that I will buy, and also I will choose not to buy. When the choice is taken away from you, now this is a human instinct. It is inbuilt in us. But if somebody takes a choice from us, this is the free right that we every one of us exercise, takes out from you, then what happens? We'll take another example. Say I'm getting the pair of shoes in a high number, X number of shoes from an unknown buyer from India. Now see, I'm in Sri Lanka. I'm getting down the goods or the shoes, in this case from India and from unknown buyer and with a high number. Say about 100 numbers pair of shoes. So before that, what the Indian guy will do to me? He will quote all the categories of shoes and the size and the prices of the shoes and sent to me. It's called a quote. It's called a quote. Or you can give a little bit of value saying an offer. So his offer letter says these are the size and the categories and the prices of the shoes. And I will pick from here and there the size and the categories that I do want from the offer. And I do accept. When I accept the quote, then what happens? A simple contract. Simple contract exists. Of course, with a consideration. Consideration means he might want some advance for me to fulfill this contract. So to fulfill a contract, a simple contract, you need to have an offer, an acceptance, and also a consideration. Right. So same thing being done in here. So same thing being done in here by the Indian guy, I have accepted. Now, I do not have the chance of touching and seeing the pair of shoe. I don't have the chance of wearing the shoe and see whether it's fitting on properly. We have a habit of, sniffing the pair of shoes or wallet that we do buy and see whether it's genuine. I don't know to how far that you can do that, but then there are guys have seen that. You can't do that from the Indian supplier. So instead, what you do? We try to do something else. Before coming to that, now see, in domestic trade, I had the choice of looking at the style, wearing the style, and sniffing it, and touching and funding and see whether it's genuine and kind of thing. At least for some satisfaction, I do touch. I unpack the shoes and I will touch. That most importantly, after fulfilling all the desires that I wanted in domestic trade, still I had the option of, without giving any reason, to go to another shop. Right. That is because of the right of the choice that I did have. Now, when the choice being taken away, what comes like a ghost to you? I'll give a couple of seconds, you can think. When the choice is gone away, what happens? I have sleepless nights. I do not know until the shoes come to me whether they are shoes or sandals or slippers. Until the shoes are untapped, I will not know that that is the particular style and the category that I wanted. So that means when the choice is taken away, the level of risk comes to us. Risk comes to us. Now we are in the subject. So when you have risk, why do you have risk? Because we don't have a choice. When you have risk, we have to attack the risk. We say we need to mitigate the risk. Mitigate the risk. To mitigate risks, what do? You need to check the integrity of the supplier, which we didn't do or didn't bother to do in case of logistics. Therefore, I will, before I accept his offer, I will get information or the status report of a buyer, supplier rather. Status report. Remember these words. Status report. There are various agencies in India that you can get status report from the customer, and at least to say whether he is not, convicted or barred from doing any businesses in India, and he has the capacity of manufacturing and distributing shoes. Because before everything, we need to find that whether this particular supply is existing or an unfictitious guy. There could be fraudulent offers coming from everywhere and getting the money converted from Sri Lanka rupees to foreign currency and sent across, and the goods will never come. To see, there's no guy such. So we need to see whether there's a tangible, a touchable man in their existence. And that's not good enough. That particular person has to have the capacity of making shoes and distributing. And whether he is allowed to do so in India, whether he is prompt in his commitments, whether he has any black marks, whether he has been convicted in the court of law in there, whether he's an insane person or an unsound person, we need to check. And mostly we will find out whether he's a minor. So that's how you mitigate risk. But how do you do that? To do that, we need to have some documents. We need to have some documents. Right? We'll discuss what the documents that we do need on the third session. First of all, just remember these are shipping documents that I'm talking of. Shipping documents. In the shipping documents, you have legal documents, you have financial documents, you have transport documents, you have commercial documents. I repeat, you have legal documents, you have financial documents, you have commercial documents, you have transport documents. So when you put all those documents together, you call as documents. So hereinafter, if I refer the word documents during the session of the trade, that comprise of legal documents, financial documents, then what? Commercial documents and transport documents. Right. So in detail, we'll go through what the documents are in the third session, as I said. So why these documents are for me? To mitigate risk. Why I need to mitigate risk? Because I have my choice been taken off. This is something that I had from my infancy. Nobody gave that choice to me. It is inbuilt in us as a human being. But now we forcibly taken off. I'm importing a vehicle from, Japan to the auction. Until the vehicle gets landed in Hambantota port, I will not know what happens to the vehicle. Whether there are certain dents, bruises because of the clamps of the crane, I do not know. So until I get the vehicle to my doorstep, I will have to exercise. That is what you call risk. So mitigate risk, what the document that I would ask in the case of vehicle, inspection report. The odometer report, you know what the odometer is, how much of mileage been done, odometer report. So when I take the inspection report, there are special guys who are established and authorized to give reports, Bureau Veritas, one JIC report, you can take it, right? So there are plenty of documents that you need to have in that case to mitigate risk. So eliminate, you can't eliminate the risk, right? You cannot eliminate risk. To mitigate risk, to minimize the risk. So you need to have documents. That these documents, when you have documents means it's not, you know, this kind of thing or the thing that I'm talking of in here online. Documents means the hard copies. So when you raise a hard copy or when you ask them to raise a hard copy for me to mitigate risks. So what I said was, you need to have documents to mitigate risk. And documents means hard copies, papers, documents in literal form. So when you ask for documents, what happens? There's a tendency, or you can call that as a what? Loophole of entertaining forgery. So lots of fraudulent activities could happen when you ask for documents. A forged document, a duplicate document. Possibility of surrendering it. So then how to eliminate that? You cannot eliminate. That is why international trade is complex. That is why we need to study. That is why there are plenty of rules and regulations being put to make it uniform in the planet. How to check documents, how to read documents, how to read and understand documents, and what the documents are in common law. I said there's a legal document, there are financial documents. So when you say financial documents, you go to the bill of exchange ordinance. That's why I've given a handout for negotiable instruments. You need to know that. Right. So now you see the basic difference, significant difference of domestic trade and international trade. You don't have documents in domestic trade. You go to the boutique and buy the pair of shoe, the vendor will give you a receipt, that's all. You part with the what? The perceived power that you had at a credit card or cash liquid, and in return he will give you a receipt. That's just a piece of collateral, that's all. You can't make a charge over the customer or rather the vendor with that a small sheet of paper. You cannot. There's no legal validity in that. Right? So, but when it comes to international trade, because the choice has been taken off completely, you have to have documents. So to mitigate risks, you call for documents, and when you have the documents, you check the documents, and you study about the documents. Foreign trade is all about that. So until end of the session, we will be studying about the documents and see how complex it is. Right. We'll take a vertical glance on international and domestic trade. vertical glance on the international and domestic. You can see the differences. Now, this is slightly important. Once or twice they have tested on you and asked to give the similarities and the differences between domestic and international. So I will just rush. My handout will have a few. One more thing I need to tell you. My handout will not, it will be a guide because those have been extracted from the textbooks and comprehensively written. But plenty of explanation needed based on the handouts. That's why you have to have a sit on online or come for classes once this situation is normalized, right? Merely going to the handouts, you just can't pull the trade exam paper. There is one. There are certain things you need to Google search as and when I tell you to do that. Not to get the knowledge base, but then to see the fine tunes of that, because the terminology is the most difficult area of trade. It's not the content of the subject, the terminology, right? And the way that you write. So I want to see, it's bit unfortunate to the online that I cannot see that, because all it matters the exam, all it matters what you pen on and what I see and understand. So you have to inculcate or groom yourself, not how to write, but to put the answers in point form. So start from the first day itself, how to express yourself in point form. Don't concentrate too much on grammar, tenses, unless you kill the subject, right? Kill the language, right? I'm not so worried about the prepositions. Try to put point form, because this is not English language, it's media, right? But it's trade. It's a technical subject. So you put point form, put in point form, and the point has to be very precise. Right. So domestic trade, I'll give few points. In domestic trade, documentation is very simpler. Documentation is simpler. But in here is complex. It's complex. Now see the way that I put the point across. When you say documentation is simpler, don't write the same thing in here, because it's a comparison as opposed to simplicity of the documents. You have complex situation in international trade. That is one point, right? And in domestic trade, both parties, what the both parties are, the buyer and the seller, those are the two parties we embrace with us until the sessions are over. In trade, right? Leave alone to international trade. For any trade, you need to have a buyer and a giver or a supplier. We call the seller. So in trade, when you go into deep, you will term these two guys in different names, but finally, it is the buyer and the seller, right? So in the case of domestic trade, both buyer and seller domicile resides in the same country. But important in here is, same country means this particular domicile area is governed by one law of entity, right? You must be wondering why I'm saying that, because for Sri Lanka it doesn't happen, because from Jaffna to Dondra point, we have the same laws, same taxation rules applies. But if you take a big country like USA, you have different states. Those are federal states. Different laws applies. So both parties resides or domicile in one country, right? Domicile in one country. Same country. But in international trade, both buyer and the seller are in different countries. Right, you can write that. Right, the next point goes along with this. When you are in one country, when you reside or domicile in one country, you transact business in the same currency. When I sell a good in Sri Lanka, in Colombo, to a guy in Madhara, I expect him to give me rupees for me, not in Indian rupees or Pakistan rupees. Right? Even if I sell the goods to a Pakistani who is domiciled in Sri Lanka, I expect him to give me rupees, not in his native currency. So, same currency. Same currency. Here what happens? Foreign currency. Foreign currency. Right. Now, when you have the foreign currency, there's a little bit of a thing that you need to tell, a little bit deep. When you are dealing with foreign currency, then what you have to convert your legacy currency. Legacy currency is rupees, LKR, Sri Lanka rupees. So our legacy currencies has to be converted into foreign currency. The legacy currency has to be converted into foreign currency. When you convert or reconvert from one currency to another currency, there's a thing called exposure. Exposure. This exposure could be seen as exchange risk. So you now see, within the risk you have another risk, exchange risk. Right? Now this is very tedious for us to know and understand now itself. We have a full-fledged 6 sessions to do Forex. Then I will try to make you explain all the concepts of Forex. So what I want to tell you is, when you're dealing with foreign currency, you expose yourself for exchange risk. That kind of exposure is alien to domestic trade. You don't have any exposure in domestic trade. Other thing is, if there's a dispute in domestic trade, dispute between the buyer and the seller. Why I use the word dispute? Because there's a contract between the buyer and the seller beforehand. That contract is called the contract of sale, or you can call that as a sales agreement. That is the most important contract that you have within the buyer and the seller. That has to be very carefully drafted. So according to the contract of sale, A is supposed to sell a certain amount of goods to B. According to contract of sale, on receipt of goods from A, B is supposed to pay. How is he going to pay also be spelled out in the contract of sale. Right? Contract of sale or the sales agreement. Right? So, when there's a dispute means contrary to the sales agreement. If one party acts, then that is called a dispute. So when there's a dispute in case of a domestic trade, it's very easy to arrest that situation. Right? Arrest means is a wide meaning, but sort out the issue that I do have with the other guy. Because the contract of sale says deliver goods by truck, but he has delivered the goods in a tipper. Exposed to atmospheric conditions. So I am finding fault with the guy saying, no, this is the contract of sale. Why you expose goods for so many miles of the carriage? And because of that, the quality of the goods might get substandard. But still, I should be able to go and meet the guy because it's the same location that he is in and sort out matters without making the situation complicated. So disputes could be easily sorted out in case of domestic trade. Right? Noted down? Fine. But in case of international trade, if there's a dispute, it's extremely difficult to handle. So If the worst situation comes, the injured party will go to court of arbitration. I will explain this later. Arbitration. Is the spelling right? ARBITRATION. Arbitration. So you need to learn the words litigation and arbitration. Litigation and arbitration. Difference between litigation and arbitration, you need to check. So make a good reference on a dictionary and see the words litigation and arbitration. I'll explain, but you need to go through. Litigation means those are big words, right? We don't use commonly. Those are very big words. Litigate means a legal process. A legal process. I have done some injustice to one of two students. He or she can go to courts against me. I have rights, I will make an appeal. So the appeal will continue until be proved beyond doubt. That's a legal process. So I will get you of a lawyer and you also do the same thing. The lawyers will battle. Either of the person will have the last laugh. Litigation. Legal process. It goes to magistrate courts, district courts, Supreme Court, like that, Court of Appeal. That's a legal process. Now, this is the layman expression that I gave with regard to litigation. You need to check on those. Right. Arbitration is somewhat different. Because in international trade, goods are somewhere there in between the two countries. And we try to go through the legal process the way that we used to go on litigation in normal court of law. Who will suffer? Neither party of the both, you and me, but the goods. Especially if the goods are time sensitive or temperature sensitive, goods will definitely suffer. Right? Example, if the goods are hydrogen peroxide is a chemical composition, right? Hydrogen peroxide. If you keep it exposed for so long, it becomes watery. Because it's a highly unstable compound. So we are in a legal battle. Goods will suffer. So therefore, there's a thing called a neutral place called the court of arbitration. So you and I both will select who the arbitrator is. In the case of litigation, you don't know who the judge is. In this case, we can select a neutral person, like a neutral umpire. And the verdict of his will be final. There's no trial, no appeals. Right? That is what we call arbitration. So in most of the trade disputes leading to cases with regard to in the letter of credit or international trade, people have sought arbitration stuff, litigation. So in case of dispute, International Court of Arbitration will be sought in case of international trade. But here the normal legal process is called litigation. Right. Now, I will count the number of points that I put it down. Now, I need you all to do one thing. That is, that you have to do it, right? You need to Google search. You can go through my handouts. If you have some textbooks with you, can check on those and get the answer to me through my email. I'll write down the email once again. And the question is this. What are the differences between domestic trade and international trade? What are the differences between the domestic trade and international trade? Because all this is about not for you to listen and understand and know what trade is, and for me to just, just deliver the lecture. what the end result would be, what you know has to be pen on. There's a little bit of leniency, you can copyright, you can copy paste, or whatever it is, you can get some input. I will, if necessary only, I will correct and resend to you. I will not check the grammar, the tense, or the presentation. Don't worry about the presentations. I just want the answers in point form, 10 points. That's all. So back of your mind, remember that I'm allocating 10 marks. Each point will carry a mark. Right. So this is my email address. My handout will carry the email address also as well. Bernard 59 Galaxy at gmail.com. Bernard 59 Galaxy. I'll write here. Bernard 59 Galaxy at gmail.com. Bernard spelled as BRNARD. 59 Galaxy GALAXY at gmail.com. Now in trade, especially in international trade, there are two concepts called absolute advantage and comparative advantage. And comparative advantage. Absolute advantage and comparative advantage. Now these both concepts, covering the both concepts, I have given a handout to you. So we'll try to understand what this absolute and the comparative advantage is, which belongs to international trade. This concept actually been introduced by a marketing guru or economist called Adam Smith, and he noted he took only two countries and two commodities, and all the factors remain constant except for labor. So he took the labor output as the only measure determining the absolute advantage. Right? So go to the grid that I have given to you. So I have given United Kingdom and Canada. There are two countries that have been put. So hypothetically, you just imagine there are only two countries in existence, and there are only two commodities being traded: wheat and cars. Right. UK and Canada. UK produces UK consumes 300 hours to produce 1 ton of wheat. 1 ton of wheat. And it consumes 150 hours. This is in your handout, right? I'm just explaining. And it takes 150 hours to produce 1 unit of car. 1 car. There are two countries, UK and Canada. UK consumes 300 hours to produce 1 ton of wheat and 150 hours to produce 1 car. And Canada consumes 200 hours only as opposed to UK to produce 1 ton of wheat, and takes 250 hours to produce 1 car. Right? Now you see, Canada has an absolute advantage of producing wheat because it takes only 200 hours. And the UK has an absolute advantage of making cars. It takes only 150 hours. So what they decide, they might decide that because this is a hypothetical thing that I'm taking. UK has 300 hours pumping into to make ton of wheat. So the UK will give these 300 hours to make cars. To make cars. So that means they have 450 hours now. 450 hours. All in all, they have 450 hours. So 450 hours means they can make 3 cars. They can make 3 cars. If they stop manufacturing or producing wheat, that time is saved. At that time, it will be pumped into the car division, and they will make 3 cars now. Right? So they will have 3 cars because to produce 1 car takes 150 hours. They have 300 plus 450, 450. That is 3 times of the 150. That 3 cars could be made. Understand? Right. Now they need to, for their consumption, they need to have wheat. No? So they will import wheat from where? Canada. They are more stronger in producing wheat than UK. So when they import wheat, 1 ton of wheat, right? They will have one. They will have 1 ton of wheat. Right? And keep this as suspension. We'll go to the next one and combine together and we'll see. They have imported 1 ton of wheat, so they have 1 ton of wheat now for the moment, and they have 3 cars. They're suspended now for the moment. Right. Come to Canada. Canada has consuming only 200 hours of making 1 ton of wheat, but they have massive 250 hours to make 1 car. So they will put the 250 hours to the wheat production division. So they will have 450 hours now. 450 hours. Divide by 200. Right? So how many hours they have? They will have 2.25 tons of wheat. They had only 1 ton of wheat consuming 200 hours. They took these 250 hours also this to produce wheat. And because there's 250 hours, they have stopped producing cars and they are now having 2.25 ton of wheat. So from this only they have given 1 ton here. From this 2.25 only they have given 1 ton here, leaving a balance of 1.25 tons of wheat in Canada. Plus they have a car also from UK. Right? So you try to understand that, and I have given a note comprehensively and giving in an understandable manner. Now we just apply and see. Right. Now this is the absolute advantage based on only one input called labor. Labor. All other factors that you find, the climatic conditions, the demand and supply, and inflation, everything being taken into constant. Only ingredient being taken as labor. That is the Adam Smith's logic. Right. So this was, further illustrated in a different way by a guy called David Ricardo. Remember his name? David Ricardo. And he found the law of comparative theory. Right? We call the comparative advantage. So, in the handout of the other side of the paper, you will see I have given UK and Canada. UK has consumes 400 hours to produce 1 ton of wheat, and Canada only 200 hours. And it consumes 375 hours to produce one car, and Canada produces 300. So looking at this grid, Canada has the absolute advantage to produce both goods because it's taking less hours. Right? Canada takes only 200 hours to produce 1 ton of wheat, as opposed to 400 hours for UK. And Canada takes only 300 hours to produce 1 car, whereas UK takes 375 hours. So both wheat and cars, if you consider, Canada has the absolute advantage over UK. But according to comparative theory, or the comparative advantage, the law of comparative theory by David Ricardo, he said, even though if the country doesn't have absolute advantage over one good, if you consider the opportunity cost, now he's taking an ingredient called the opportunity cost. Opportunity cost. Opportunity cost. Opportunity cost. Right, taking the ingredient of opportunity cost and trying to explain how both Canada and UK have a win-win situation. Right, now that has been explained in the second page of the handout. Please do read very carefully and try to understand. And if there's a difficulty of understanding that, just make a comment or send me a email. I will explain. Right. Now we'll move on to negotiable instrument. Negotiable instrument. The negotiable instrument is important to trade matters or for trade transactions, and when you read and try to understand trade literature, this negotiability and the instruments, the financial documents, financial instruments takes a very, very vital role. So we need to know the basic concepts of a negotiable instrument. I'm not going into deep in the law, general principles of law in case of negotiable instruments, but to some extent you should know the bill of exchange ordinance, the promissory note, check, right, and the negotiable instrument. But I'm concising and giving it a nutshell for you to understand. Right. If I put it this way, just see whether you can, at the first glance of it, whether you can understand. I cannot see your facial expressions, but then we'll see how it goes. Mere delivery. Mere means just delivering. Delivering as it is. Example, check uncrossed. I draw the check A Fernando, 1,000 rupees, sign, and give it to A Fernando, just without making a what you call striking the word bearer. So the bearer is A Fernando, either A Fernando or somebody can collect cash. So that is mere delivery. Or I can give Endorsement plus delivery. Endorsement plus delivery. Right? Taking the same example, if you give an order check, the recipient can endorse it and convert that into bearer and give value for the check. Be a delivery or endorsement of delivery. Just to make a note of it. Now, like good souls, rush this quickly as possible. I'll give 2 minutes, sir. Right. Bill of Exchange Ordinance 1882, take it down in point form. Enacted in Sri Lanka is not a point actually. They have put a point there. It's not a, what you call it, put it in parentheses. Actually, it's enacted in Sri Lanka in 1927. Check Act came into being in 1957. And we are talking about the Bill of Exchange Ordinance of 1882. Right. Now, listen to the way that I'm pronouncing or giving a stress. And you underline that particular word there. Right. It is an unconditional order in writing. Right? It's an unconditional order. It's not just a conditional order, it's an unconditional order. So underline unconditional. Addressed by one person or another, signed by the person who is giving it. Amount certain in money, certain in money. Right? Students, you may have seen the checks have been drawn, say 100,000, 150 and says 27, and with the suffix, the word only. So, if you don't have the word only, you don't have to return the check. But the only came as a customary thing to make it certain. To make it certain. Right? So about certain in money, you can't say 1,000 rupees. You can't say about 1,000 rupees. You can say, cannot say approximate 1,000 rupees. say about approximate acceptable abbreviations or other prefixes. You can say on or about some amount or approximate amount can say. In mathematically also you can say that. But when you're drawing a bill of exchange or a check, you cannot say those words. So those are ambiguous terms. That will be certain. So amount certain money. So you underline unconditional and we have underlined the word certain. The rest of the thing is very important. That is the element that we have to grab into trade matters and embrace the bill of exchange ordinance for negotiability. Is payable on demand, fixed, and future determinable time. So bill of exchange ordinance says it is an instrument, could be payable on demand, right? And it could be a fixed, right? So fixed means, it's a difficult word when you say fixed. Put a small, what do you call, explanation, just below the fixed with a smaller font, say, deferred date, deferred date, deferred date. That's a double R, yeah? Deferred date, D-E-F-E-R-R-E-D, deferred date. Postponed date, right? The future date. It could be a fixed or a future determinable time. That is, in the instrument itself, you can calculate the date of maturity and decide when the bill of exchange is getting matured for payment. That's what you call future determinable time. Come again, payable on demand, fixed or future determinable time. So those are the things that you need to know. They will not ask for the bill of exchange ordinance. As a as a teacher, I have given the ordinance to you. For your other exams also it will be important, but the main element things that need to know with regard to trade and will be quiz from trade is these elements. The reason why the bill of exchange cannot be eliminated from trade. So the bill of exchange for certain days become obsolete. They don't, taken into practice, but the trade still holds on to the matter because of this negotiability. Right. So I said it's a mere delivery. It's a feature of a negotiable instrument. Mere delivery. Or you can endorse and deliver. That's the normal characteristic of a negotiable instrument. And also a small question. Now this is my check. It's a check. I have signed the check. Amount I have written as 1,000 rupees. And I have crossed non-negotiable. You may have seen a lot of checks coming in the transfers line, says non-negotiable. If all are bankers in here, you may have seen checks coming as inward carrying or outward carrying. Cross checks non-negotiable. If there are any non-bankers in the forum, please try to do understand. Right, non-negotiable. We'll say pay A Fernando. And it's an order check. Bearer means stuck off. And it's an order check. So A Fernando can endorse or the reverse of the check for B Fernando and deliver. Just because the check being cross non-negotiable, the transferability of the check is not being barred or prohibited. So the negotiability has a very thin meaning in there when it comes to transferability in case of a check. Right. Now we have a new word called a check. So we need to understand what a check is now. Take it down. What is check? There are three ingredients to fulfill a financial instrument, to make that instrument a check. Check. CHEQUE. And the check act came into being in 1957. And what are the three ingredients? We'll see. Check is a bill of exchange. Check is a bill of exchange. Check is what? It's a bill of exchange. Check is always drawn onto a bank. That is why you see, when a check is given from a distance, you can see with big bold letters, People's Bank, Commercial Bank of Ceylon, National Bank, Pan Asia, Kyrgyz Bank, like that you see in a check. In a what do you call it, a higher font, at a glance you can see the bank's name is imprinted in there. The person who issues the check doesn't write his commercial bank or like that. It's imprinted. Because it's always drawn on the banker. You cannot, get it discounted off the counters of the bank. You have to submit or surrender to a bank counter to get the value of it. That's what you call it's drawn on a banker. It has to be drawn on a banker. Drawn on a banker. Right? Should know it by heart, right? These things. Right. Check is a bill of exchange. It has to be drawn on a banker. And if a customer comes during the course of business service to the bank of yours and throws the check, and if you don't think fit of paying him, you cannot afford to say to the customer, you come tomorrow and pay. Why is that? Check is demanded. Right. It's a bill of exchange, drawn on a banker, payable on demand. Payable on demand. Now, where you see this word demand? In the bill of exchange ordinance also as well, right? About certain money, payable on demand. Demand. Right? So these are the three ingredients you should have in a financial instrument, and if such entities are there in a financial instrument, that instrument is called a check. Right? So you gauge yourself how many of you all paying a receipt of checks, many a checks in the banking career up to now, knew what a check is. Right? That's important. Remember again, I'll repeat again, for the benefit of you and me, check is a bill of exchange. It has to be drawn on a bank. What is the third one? That's how the question comes in MCQ, right? They will give to one and ask you for the third one. Payable or demand. Check cannot be paid on a fixed date. Check cannot be paid on a future determinable time. You cannot write the check, pay on after 30th of June. You cannot. For two reasons. Why? Because it's payable only on demand. And if you put a condition there, that instrument becomes a conditional order. Since it's a bill of exchange definition says it's an unconditional order. So we cannot put conditions on a check. Right. Unfortunately, bill of exchange is not a check. Check is a bill of exchange, not vice versa. What is bill of exchange? You have just taken down. It's an unconditional order. In writing, like that, you have written a lot of points with regard to bill of exchange ordinance, which we stipulated in 1882. It was enacted in Sri Lanka, all right, in 1927. Right? When you say enacted, that has been, legalizing in the Parliament Act. That is what you call enactment. Then it becomes normal law of Sri Lanka as well, and we embrace the bill of exchange ordinance of 1882. 1927, there was an ordinance. It was enacted in Sri Lanka. So we have the bill of exchange ordinance to cover our checks, to our bill of exchange. So it's not vice versa. Bill of exchange is not a check. Check is a bill of exchange. Bill of exchange is not a check. Remember that. Right. Now I am drawing a bill of exchange. Now I am drawing a bill of exchange. Unlike in a check, bill of exchange has three parties. Unlike in a check, bill of exchange has three parties. Drawer, person who issues and signs the instrument. Person who issues and signs the instrument, drawer. You have a drawer in a bill of exchange, you have a drawer in a check course as well. In a bill of exchange, you have a drawee. You have a drawee. Usually, drawee is noted on a bill of exchange on the bottom left-hand side corner. Here you find the drawee. Drawee's name and address being given on the bottom of the left-hand side corner. Then there's another character in a bill of exchange called the payee. So in a check, you have a drawer who signs the check, and payee is A. Fernando, the person who receives the check. Being the holder of a value is payee. And you don't find a drawee in a check. You have a drawee, but you don't see a drawee. It is not noted in elsewhere who the drawee is. Why is that? Because it's always drawn on the banker. So the bank himself is the drawee. So you don't have a third party. Other than the drawer and the payee, you don't have a separate third character called drawee in case of a check. But in case of a bill of exchange, you have these three characters. Drawer, get the spelling right. Second syllable is W-E-R, W-E-E. Drawer, drawee, payee. Right. Now, if the bill of exchange is crossed, non-negotiable, negotiable. If the check is crossed, now I'll take a small example. Assuming at least one or two people in the forum are big newcomers in the bank, or just recruited 1 or 2 years ago, still in the counter serving. If you come across a check over the counter to be in cash, and that particular check is crossed non-negotiable, you would say to the customer very politely, I cannot pay over the counter because it's crossed non-negotiable. Why don't you put through an account? We'll ask very politely, right? That means transferor or the transferee is the A Fernando, will not have a better title than the transferor. Transferor had the chance of opportunity of getting cash over the counter. But A Fernando cannot do that, he has to put through an account. That is the only hitch you find or the stigma you find in non-negotiability in case of a check. But still for all, if A Fernando is, if he thinks fit, and even though it's an order check, he can endorse on the reverse of the check and say, pay to A Fernando. Right. That's also to an account, right? But in the case of non-negotiable trust on a bill of exchange, both negotiability and transferability ceases off. Should I tell again? If non-negotiable trust over a check, transferability is not prohibited. You can transfer a check despite the fact that they've been crossed non-negotiable. If you are very fast on writing, in case of a check crossed non-negotiable, transferee means the person who receives the check, transferee. If I transfer a check to Nimal is the transferee, Bernard is the transferor. So if a check crossed non-negotiable, transferee, how do you end the spellings? F-E-R-E-E, transferee will not have a better title than the transferor, F-E-R-O-R. That is the case of a check. If a bill of exchange crossed non-negotiable, both transferability and negotiability ceases off. It ceases. Right? Right. Now we'll try my best to discuss about the methods of payment. If you have if there's any comment, you just make a comment in here. I can see the prompts. If there's anything, I will see. If I'm talking fast or the way that I'm speaking cannot be understood properly, or the way that I'm writing in the board, some is not clear because I can see the full board in here, but I was advised not to use the full board. Some people cannot see, perhaps. So until I also get used to this kind of thing, please do make a comment so it will be useful for us at least for the couple of weeks. Right. Danushkara, thank you for that comment. Rather, I expected you to say something for me to get myself improved a little bit, Danush. And if you are coming in voice also doesn't matter. That will be beneficial for others also as well. If there's anything to be said, just unmute it and just speak off. It's all right. Because you will have a terrible time once you come on here in person, because I'm going to check on you and I'll be moving to the aisle for everybody. Because trade is a thing that you have to be hands-on all the time. It's in fingertips. Yeah. At the board and other technical subjects, all right. But there are certain things, the key things that I need to explain. With the mere handouts, will not give an aid to you. Right. There was a question was asking what ceases to offer a bill of exchange. That means if a bill of exchange being crossed non-negotiable, I'll repeat, if the bill of exchange being crossed non-negotiable on the transverse lines on the face of it, the both transferability and the negotiability of the bill of exchange ceases. You cannot transfer them, you cannot negotiable. That's what you call ceases. I hope that you can understand. You understand. Right, fine. I got a comment. Right. Likewise, that is appreciated. If you can ask some elements so that I could, give a little bit of a simplification or give a wide meaning of that. And also, I need to know the way that I'm, presenting. There's no presentation in such, but at least the way that I'm telling certain things, the vocabulary, the pronunciation, whether you could understand properly. If you can make a comment on that also as well, I can just simplify. I can just afford to, switch the language, but still for all, if you say so, I should be able to. But some of the terminology, which you find in trade, is extremely difficult for me to spell out in singular. But if you can make a comment on that, yes, I can, add here to that also as well. Thank you, one guy. Thank you, Kitama. Right. So we'll go to one more thing I need to tell you from that is from the today itself. I have given homework already, right? What are the difference between domestic trade and international trade? So I appreciate that every one of you all will make a comment on that. I will make all my all time available for me to go through each and everything and revert back as soon as possible. And thank you once again, Dhanush, for that comment also as well. But I expect some kind of adversary things also as well, so that I could make a little bit of an improvement the way that I am, saying certain things. So you have to edit, right? Because some say it's a bit of a curse of the subject because it's there are two reasons why the subject is difficult. One is you don't have this hands-on training. Only just few selfish guys like me handle trade in the bank. It's an isolated area. Certain specialized people, like they call themselves as experts and pundits, only handle that. Unfortunately, that has become a core subject in here, the syllabus, and you are forced to do that. That is one. Let me talk the facts, right? The second one is the stupid English methodology or the terminology that you find all throughout in the trade. With certain words that we are used to vocal ourselves and to communicate, to understand to each other, we slightly defeated in case of trade, the same word being taken in a different way. So we'll understand sooner later, but I'm saying that also. So that is the two areas that is being find difficult for most of the children, or students rather, even for me, the trade. Other than that, the content of the subject is not that difficult if you consider it a little more, right? If it's a heavy tough subject, even we would have gone to the bank and we want to these trade divisions, no. So it's not a difficult subject, right? To handle customers or trade requires not difficult things, except for the methodology, but you have to give a little bit of idea, right? So we'll go for the methods of payment. Right. Methods of payments, MOP. Right. First one, open account. Open account trading. Open account trading. Now, I have given in the handout a maze-like grid, a complicated thing at the first sight, and see whether you can understand along with me the way I'm saying that, or at a later time, just go to the bullets of that particular grid and identify the areas the arrows have been marked. That's all you need to do. Right. In open account, obviously you have these two parties. The what are the two parties? The buyer and the seller. Buyer and the seller. So the BNS factor goes right away, right? The buyer and the seller factor, it goes. So the buyer and the seller has a contract. What is that contract I told you? It's a contract of sale or the sales agreement. So they have a sales agreement. Sales agreement. That has been carefully drafted. Then they have, contract agreement saying that this particular transaction or this particular trade, now this international trade, right? Not domestic trade. This particular trade is happening through open account. Open account. Now, don't give a direct translation for the open account and get yourself embedded, right? Which is not Ginumak Vyutta Kirima. It's a sin to think like that. Right? Open account is not that. Now see, if you go for an interview, if the panel asks, how do you open an account? So that is different. But a trade guy goes for the interview. If the panel asks, what is open account? Now you see the difference. Right. So open account trading means, now there's a contractual obligation between the buyer and the seller that has been spelled out in the sales agreement, all right. I think I missed a small part before. Freeze a little bit, I'll shift back to that particular thing that I missed. In domestic trade, you have only one performance. Now I'm giving a hint also to you for your answer. One performance. What is the performance by the seller? To give the goods. All this time he had these goods in his possession. Buyer came, gave the money, he has to part with the goods. That is for the physical portion of the goods. Parting with the physical portion of the goods. I'll take it down. Physical portion of the goods. Physical portion of the goods. Difficult words, right? You get simplified, right? Physical portion of the goods. Physical means you can see, touch and see, tangible. That's all. That's the only performance being expected by the seller. You can add a word here as an adjective, the quality. Quality of the goods, yes. But in case of international trade, it goes without saying also, the seller has to part with the physical portion of the goods, all right, because the goods have to come over the sea or by air or by land. The goods have to travel from another country to this country. That's a different aspect. Apart from that, he has another performance also as well. I told you to mitigate the risk, you need to have documents. Such documents are called shipping documents. What are those the shipping documents? The transport documents, I said, legal documents, financial documents, and commercial documents, I said. There are various documents like that. All documents, 101 documents put in categorized because legal, transport, commercial, and what else? Insurance documents like that. So, in international trade, beneficiary has to part with the physical control of the goods, that is the physical portion of the goods, and that is plus the constructive control of the goods. It's a difficult word, I'll put it down. Constructive control of the goods. Constructive control of the goods. What is constructive control of the goods? You have the car in your carport, I have the steering wheel in mine. So who can steer? I can steer. I have the control of your vehicle. That's what you call the constructive control of the goods. So what is in trade then? What is this construction calling of? That's the, yes, can I remember? Not remember, can you recall something? A substitute of constructive control of goods? What? Title. 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 Now, how come this title has been incorporated to a constructive control of goods, and what documents carry the nature of or the characteristics of a title? We are going to learn when you try to study in regard to bill of lading in a later stage, right? You have a very deep area of bill of lading in your syllabus. So I also have to prepare and come for that. And then we will discuss what a title is and how the title transfers and why the title is transferred where the goods have been already sold, that we are going to check and discuss about those. What you know is international trade, seller has to perform two ways. So these are big words. I will put small layman terms in here. Here's the part with the goods. Here's the part with the title. How do you part with the goods? He has to sell the goods. How he has to part with the title? He has to sell the doorkeepers. So in here, now that is the part that I missed, I said. Now we are in open account now. Buyer the seller has agreed and settled down in open account trading method. And you're going to make a small note of it on my handout. I don't know whether it carries it there. Open account exceeds, I will be a bit slow in there. Take it down quickly. And usually when I give dictation, I've been accused of giving bit fast. So if you have the same accusation, please do write it bit slow. I'm generally bit fast when I'm dictating because I am dictating onto my own fist. And if you think that I'm bit fast, just make a comment. Right. Take it down. Open account trading exists. Open account trading exists. Open account trading exists. When the buyer can find, when the buyer can find abundance of sellers. Abundance of, that is plentiful. Abundance of sellers. In open account trading, buyer is stronger than the seller. Buyer is stronger than the seller. Buyer is stronger than the seller. Right? So that's in a bit of a nutshell idea to you why the open account trade exists. When the buyer becomes stronger, he has a huge purchasing power. Not only that, he can find a plentiful of sellers. If you make a fuss, if you make a little bit of Anukul find, if he catches, he said, don't worry, I may have another seller. I don't want from you. I'm smart, I'm a dominant, I'm a macho man. Right? I'm into open account trade. So I will contract with another supplier, a contract of sale, and I'll get the what you call the goods from the other person. From his own country, from his own vicinity, I will have abundance of sellers. Right? Open account exists then. Right. That little part you need to understand. If in a country if they encourage open account, that means your buyers are big, your buyers are strong. They can dictate. Correct word. They are the dominant party of the seller. Right? Everything be noted down. Now you might make an accuse that I'm fast. Right. So having taken that into consideration, seller has to send goods. Seller has to send goods. In open account, seller has to send the goods according to sales contract. Whatever the goods that he wanted, not by barter, you have to send the goods. The full consignment has to be sent across the buyer's country. It doesn't come to the buyer's doorstep. It will come to the buyer's country, that is the port of call. Right. So it will come to the buyer's country, in other words, right? And the shipping documents. Then there's another way of performing. No? He has sent the goods and the shipping documents. Shipping documents will come to the buyer. Come to the buyer. No man's involved. Goods will come to the buyer's country. So obviously, buyer has to go to the customs and claim that the goods belongs to him, and then clear the cargo. That is secondary. And also, that's another obligation of his has to be fulfilled. Simultaneously, he has to send the goods also to, the documents also related to these goods to the buyer, call the shipping documents to the buyer straight away. Right? And you need to understand one thing here. Both goods and documents have to be consigned. Have to be consigned. Get the spellings right? CONSIGNED. Consigned. Have to be consigned to the buyer. Have to be consigned to the buyer. Consign means, take the what you call the slang word or the slang meaning or the use the customary meaning of consign means, is a legal term obviously. Consign means all the rights being transferred. All the rights that I did have being transferred. I don't have the goods, I don't have the title, I had to look up and wait until he pay me. I don't have anything, I'm nothing. If I send the goods and keep the title, I have the steering wheel with me. He can't drive the car. But he was the title loss as well because he's open account and he's interested trade. So therefore, I don't have the title, I don't have the goods, I had to look up and wait. So I'm at the mercy, I means who? The seller. I'm at the mercy of the buyer. Now see, buyer has the goods, buyer has the documents, he will go and get the consent. And when he thinks fit, he will make the payment. So there's a huge risk in part of seller here. Right? So we need to find out what are the normal rules applies. Now, if you don't Google search, if you don't want to go search in Google, I will tell you not to. Open account trade is universal thing. It's happening in the whole world. But different laws applies to country. So, according to Sri Lankan government authorities, that is for the import and export control department's regulations or directions, buyer can wait up to 365 days from the date of clearance from the goods and then go to the bank, show the documentary evidence, we are going to discuss that, show the documentary evidence and make the payment. But he can't come to the bank after 365 days. Now, if you have a habit of writing short notes here, don't say 1 year, it's wrong. It's 365 days. Right? So the buyer can wait and now see, in the seller's point of view, if he's transacting business in Sri Lanka under open account trade, he should know the local government authorities as well. At the time of his contract being drafted, buyer wouldn't have said that to him. But the country law is above any law. So he can wait, not that this encourages him to wait, but if he wants, he can wait. If the goods are not fast moving, if he's not able to sell quickly as possible and get the proceeds realized, and he has a capital block, then he can wait. Wait and wait only up to 365 days. If he comes to the 366th day to the bank and requests for him to make the payment to the seller, bank will ask him to get authority from the import and export control for the delay payment. The reasons for asking, why he is more than 365 days. Right. Now we'll only for this method of payment. You have to listen carefully. I hope that I have a question. Thank you, Gamlat Vihanga, for this question. The question is for the benefit of others. I don't know whether others can see the question. It says online payments such as eBay, Amazon, and Amazon falls into which category payment method? It comes on a consignment basis, child. A consignment basis, right? It could be consignment basis, or it can go on the advanced payment method as well. We are going to discuss. That's the other side of the coin of the open account, right? So any online payment, you can't make online payment after receipt of goods. Difficult. No seller will, because in online payment, remember this Gamlat, all these online guys are very dominant guys. Right? You just Google search and see the GDP of Amazon is bigger than Sri Lanka. Bigger than Sri Lanka's GDP. They are big guys. They can buy banks. Right? Now see the biggest retail chain guy in the world, Walmart. He's bigger than Ireland and Austria. When I say bigger than Ireland and Austria, that bigger this is what you call the gross domestic product, the GDP, is more valuable than the Irish government and the Austrian government. So they are big guys. So they are dominant parties. So they don't want to part with their goods and get the money later. No way. They say, if you want the goods, make the payment. So you make a credit card payment or some payment, you make online transfer, then you get the goods. That is not an open account. Open account, what happens? You receive the goods, you receive the documents, you wait without paying also. Because you are dominant. Understand, Gamla? So that is some kind of advanced payment. Right. Thank you. Thank you very much for that particular question. I rarely came across a question like this for this session. So it's nice. I appreciate the fact that when you come in person, that you make a point and disturb me and ask a question. Then I will see, because I can. The one advantage of having in person is looking at the faces, because through my experience, I know that if you have a little bit of wrinkle forehead and you don't understand, or if you are yawning, or if you be bored again, you make a little bit of surface lively. Right. Anyway, so where was I? Open account trade. Now we'll see how the goods have been cleared. So only for this I will explain that a little bit of a tedious exercise that is. Remember, in a nutshell, what is important in the sequence, I will tell what is important. Quickly jot down. I study that part. And I have a secret. Up to now, that area not been questioned. Right? Not questioned yet. Right. Now I told you, seller has sent the goods to the buyer. Correction, not to the buyer, but to the buyer's country. Right. And buyer has just received the shipping document from the seller. Now the shipping documents will have a transfer document as well. If somebody joined later, for their benefit, I will tell you, shipping documents means commercial documents. Before that, legal documents, commercial documents, insurance documents, transport documents. Right. So the buyer will have shipping documents. In this shipping document, there's a document of a transport. Transport document. Transport document. So we assume that it's under sea freight, and if it is under sea freight, the transport document for that particular freight is called the bill of lading. Bill of lading. Bill of lading. Right? It abbreviatedly says BL. Bill of lading. Bill of lading carries a title. There are features for the bill of lading that we'll discuss later. Functions for bill of lading we'll discuss later. For the moment, we'll assume shipping documents comprise of the transport document and the commercial documents, right? So commercial document, example for the commercial document is the commercial invoice. So here the CI stands for commercial invoice or invoices. Then he has a TD, that is the transport document. So instead of saying a transport document, now we will say he has a bill of lading. Right? So I'm going to put a note in here again, make an asterisk on a bill of lading, and open a parenthesis underneath, take the asterisk down here and say, goods have to be consigned to the importer or buyer. Goods have to be consigned to buyer. Consigned. Right. So he has commercial invoices, he has BL, he has a BL. Right. Goods is in the harbor. Now, the buyer takes a bill of lading. Buyer takes a bill of lading to the shipping agent. Shipping agent. And surrenders the bill of lading. Usually, the bill of lading comes in 3 copies. 3 copies in the sense 3 originals. It's originals. So when you say 3 originals, it says first original, second original, third original without discrimination, because first original or rather second original is not the duplicate of the first original. Or the second original doesn't mean that it has second value of the first original. It just says first original, second original, third original have the same originality of the bill of lading. So usually the bill of ladings are issued in 3 originals. It's called the full set. So shipping agents wants at least one of the originals. One of the originals. So one of the originals will be, say given to shipping agent, we say we surrender. So the importer or the buyer has to surrender. You always surrender a title. Bill of lading carries a title, I told you. So it surrenders. Shipping agent by oath, they don't dare to give the delivery order to the importer unless the bill of lading is submitted. Until again, shipping agent, when he receives the bill of lading from the buyer, he gives a document to the buyer called the delivery order, commonly known as the DO. Delivery order. That is, ordering the customs official to deliver the cargo to so and so. So that's what you call the delivery order. So shipping agent will give only the bill of lading is surrendered. So once the bill of lading is surrendered, they will give a delivery order to the importer or to the buyer. And the buyer has the delivery order plus the invoices. He goes to the customs now. If I write in here, I hope that you can see. Now he is in the customs. Customs. Not customers, customs. Regular. Right. So he has the invoices now. That is the commercial invoices. Commercial invoice is a legal what you call legally bound or legally binding document, and he has the delivery order, DO. He goes to customs, and the customs will give a document. Now, this is the thing that is important. They give a document called, take it down, Customs Declaration Form. Customs Declaration Form is abbreviated as CUSDEC. 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 If you write as CUSDEC also, doesn't matter, it's acceptable. It's Customs Declaration Form. This form is given for the buyer to fulfill and duly sign. Now, in this form, there are lots of characters needed to be checked. I'll give few points for you to know. As a trade practitioner in a bank, all characters of 12 points has to be known very thoroughly. But we need to know about 5 or 6 for our syllabus. This declaration form will tell through which bank the importer has to go and repatriate the funds to the seller. So the bank's name is given here. When the bank's name is given as People's Bank, he can't go to Bank of Ceylon and make the payment. So the bank's name is given. Obviously, the bank name is jotted down in the customs declaration form by the customs official by interacting with the customer only, right? Right. Second one, it has a unique reference number. On the right, top right hand corner, there's a reference number that is very unique for this particular consignment. And that's what you call a unique reference number. This is the reference number being aligned to the banking system, called the banking system, and bank will access that system and input the information, right? Unique reference number, and it gives the description of the goods. Description of the goods. Description of the goods. And the amount of value of the goods, that is. Value of the goods. And the amount of tax being paid. Tax and import clearance charges. So likewise, you have 12 points like this. So we need to know these things for us to understand. Right. This particular form has to be signed by the buyer, attested by the customs officials. Now I told you, no, he can wait and sit on it while clearing the cargo. Now after that, the customs will allow him to clear the cargo. So he will clear the consignment and he will sell the products and enjoy the good source as well. There's no payment involved. When he thinks it that the payment has to be made, he will go to the banker, being referred in here, along with the CUSDEC, plus the invoices. Along with the CUSDEC, plus the invoices. And show to the bank. What the bank will see? When the customs have released the payment. Therefore, there's another point in here, the date. Date. Date has to be stated in any way. This is common sense for you all. Remember, any certificates, declaration, bill of exchange, and insurance policy and transport documents in nature have to be dated. You didn't tell this has to be dated. If it's a declaration form, it has to be dated. Otherwise, it's not valid. You can't issue a certificate without dating. Otherwise, that particular certificate becomes an obsolete certificate. Bill of exchange has to be dated. Otherwise, it becomes an incoherent bill. don't give much heavy ear for this. So certain things that I tell you, if you can catch, it's all right. But in nature, it has been dated. You're asking for the insurance policy. You don't need to remind them, please date the insurance policy. In nature, it's a doctrine of insurance. It says it has to be dated. Now, that is why I said, I would have said custodic in here. Everybody speaks about custodic only. Even the customer officials will not know sometimes what is the customer declaration form if you ask. Why said declaration is, in nature it has to be dated. Right. But the banks want this date to find out when he has paid the consignment. So the bank will calculate 365 days from the date of the custodic and see whether he has left the 365 days barrier. If he is within, the bank will repatriate the monies according to the disposal instructions given in the commercial invoice. Repatriate in the sense remit the monies, converting Sri Lanka rupees to foreign currency. Right. Thank you, Dhanush Pera. The question was, I need a small response for you all. When a question being put in here on a chat column, everybody else also can see the question. Please comment yes or no, not by the party who sent to me, but somebody else. Say yes. Fine. Right. So the question is, who will surrender the bill of lading to whom? Please clarify. Yeah, surrender is a difficult word. Surrender means you surrender all rights. You surrender all rights. Who is surrendering? The importer surrenders the bill of lading to the shipping agent. Why the word surrender being used? Because the bill of lading carries the title. You don't give a title. You surrender the title. Once you surrender, there's no take it back. Once you give, you can take it back. Once you lend, you can borrow. But once you surrender, there's no way that you can take it back. So that's why the importer or the buyer has to surrender one of the originals to the shipping agent. One more thing, thank you for that question again. There's one more thing. This could be repeated again on a later stage, but then again, bill of lading acts in a bit of a funny way, students. Now, say, for example, I'm going along with Dhanush Perra's question, a split question. Now, see, you have a birth certificate in your closet, or rather in the cupboard, original birth certificate. And you have another abstract certified original birth certificate in the cupboard or elsewhere. For some purposes, you have to you don't say surrender, you give the birth certificate to the Indian Revenue Department for some tax certificate. They want the original birth certificate or issue of a new passport or something, same. So you give the birth certificate. While they are in processing, the consulate office of US doesn't have a consulate office, no? Say German consulate office. If you want to go to Germany now, they will ask for your birth certificate to process some other legal document. Now you have already surrendered your birth certificate, original birth certificate, to the Indian Revenue Department. You can't wait until they release the birth certificate for you to surrender or rather give to the German guys. But you have another one in your cupboard that's also abstract of the original birth certificate, certified, and give it, that's well and good. They will not reject, they will accept it. Right? So you can have lots of originals. Now see, I told you bill of lading been issued in full set. Full set have 3 or 4 copies. Now the word copy in here taken as originals. Now this is something alien to normal vocabulary in our in our usage. Right? We always say copy means what? No value. Copy means photostat or scan or something else. Copy. But when I say BS issued in 3 copies, that means 3 originals. Now see the way the terminology being used in a different way, in a killing way, in bill of lading. But the Bill of Lading Act of 1855, don't give a weight on this, or don't take it down until time comes. Bill of Lading Act of 1855 says Now, somebody has to take the blame of this or for asking that question because he's telling me in here now. Will already access. If one original surrenders, rest of the things that you retain becomes invalid. I'll come again. Out of the 3 originals that I have in the cupboard, if I submit one original bill of lading, rest of things in the cupboard become just a piece of collateral. Right? That is why buyer need not worry of surrendering the full set to the shipping agent. He has to find one original only. Right. Now coming back to Dhanush Perra, are you clear on that? I'm waiting for the response of his. Right. So time's up now. So I'll wind up for today. So next session they will announce you all, and I will give a handout and will make in a more improved manner. See the hiccups what I have this because it will be recorded, so I will have a little bit of feedback by the guys and see what are the loopholes in the way that I presented and try to make amends in the next session. I will see you on next Sunday perhaps, and I will touch the advance payment, document correction, document credit and consignment basis in the next session, and I will give the handout. And I'll entertain one or two what you call the 1 or 2 chats now, and we'll find out from here. And thank you, Dhanush, for the feedback. I hope that it's been clarified. And if there's any other questions not been even able to put put it in here, just write to me. And I want that exercise also be done. Differences between the domestic trade and the international trade. Right. So see you sometime then. Have a good day.